The Johnson household on Elmwood Drive was known for its peaceful, charm-white picket fences, neat lawns, and neighbors who exchanged smiles during evening walks. Tonight, the cozy kitchen was filled with the comforting aroma of roasted chicken and fresh vegetables. 2-year-old Liam Johnson, with his soft curls and wide eyes full of wonder, sat strapped into his high chair, happily clapping his hands and babbling with the innocent joy only toddlers can express. Emily Parker, a bright and responsible 19-year-old college student, had been babysitting Liam for over a year. She loved the little boy like a family member, and the Johnsons trusted her implicitly. While Emily chopped carrots and stirred mashed potatoes, K9, the family's large and usually gentle German shepherd, lay quietly curled by the fireplace. His chocolate-brown eyes watched the family calmly. His tail lazily wagging. The evening was ordinary. Too ordinary. The Johnsons were preparing to head out to a dinner party at close friend's house. They had left Emily in charge, confident. Their son was safe with both her and K9. The dog, a well-trained and loyal companion, was especially protective of Liam. But tonight, something was different. Suddenly, a loud, jarring noise shattered the calm. It came from the garage, a sharp bang, like a heavy object striking the metal door. K9's ears twitched, and his body stiffened. His gaze snapped toward the sound, nostrils flaring as he growled lowly in his throat. Emily's heart skipped a beat. "K9, stay," she commanded gently. But before she could take another step, the dog lunged out with terrifying speed. K9's powerful jaws clamped down on Emily's right hand. She yelped, stumbling backward, dropping the wooden spoon she'd been holding. The sharp bite sent waves of pain shooting through her fingers. "K9, no, boy," she cried, shock and fear flooding her voice. Liam's eyes went wide with confusion. The toddler reached out a tiny hand toward his dog, who now stood, rigid, teeth bared, growling fiercely. The warm, safe evening twisted into a moment of panic. Emily clutched her bitten hand to her chest, breath catching in her throat. Blood oozed between her fingers, staining her jeans. Tears welled in her eyes, not just from pain, but from the sheer shock of K9's sudden aggression. Mr. Johnson appeared at the kitchen doorway, eyes wide with disbelief. "What happened? Is Emily okay?" Before anyone could answer, Liam began to fuss, his face suddenly twitching. Emily's gaze snapped to the toddler. At first, it was barely noticeable, just a slight puffiness around his lips. But within seconds, Liam's cheeks ballooned grotesquely. His upper lip swelled, his eyes squinted against an invisible irritant. He whimpered, hands clutching his own face, as though confused by the sudden discomfort. Mrs. Johnson gasped and rushed to Liam's side, kneeling down to examine him closely. "Liam, what's wrong? Sweetheart, look at Mommy." Emily's hand throbbed painfully, but the fear for Liam's swelling face overtook everything else. "His face, he's swelling. Call 911. She urged urgently. Mr. Johnson grabbed his phone and dialed, his hands trembling. "Help is on the way," he said, voice strained. As they waited, Liam's breathing began to quicken. His little chest heaved, nostrils flaring as he struggled for air. The swollen skin stretched tightly across his cheeks and lips, turning pale with distress. Emily knelt beside him, her voice soft but urgent. "Liam, it's okay. I'm here. Help is coming." The dog, K9, sat back on his haunches, ears pinned, eyes wide and confused, as if even he didn't understand what had just happened. The Johnson family was caught in a nightmare that no one saw coming. The dog they loved had bitten the babysitter, and now their toddler's face was swelling dangerously. Minutes stretched like hours as the sirens wailed closer, the shadow of fear growing heavier with every heartbeat. Emily's mind raced. Was this an allergic reaction? Was Liam's life in danger? Could K9 ever be trusted again? The night had flipped, upside down in a terrifying instant, and the worst was yet to come. The blaring sirens echoed through the quiet neighborhood as the paramedics sped toward the Johnson home. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with dread. Emily sat beside Liam, her bitten hand wrapped hastily in a towel, but her full attention was on the swelling toddler in her arms. His tiny face had transformed, puffy, red, and rapidly distorting. As the swelling crept toward his eyes and neck, his breathing. "It's getting harder," Emily whispered, panic gripping her voice. She looked up at Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, whose faces were pale and tight with worry. Mrs. Johnson's voice cracked. "Someone get Liam's medical records. We need to tell this paramedics everything." Emily nodded, carefully lifting Liam so his head was slightly elevated, hoping it might ease his breathing. But each breath came with increasing difficulty, his little chest rising and falling faster than before. Minutes later, the front door burst open. 2 paramedics hurried in, their faces calm but serious. "Where's the patient?" one asked. As he scanned the room, Liam was immediately placed on a stretcher. Emily described everything as quickly and clearly as she could: the bite, the swelling, the rapid progression of symptoms. The paramedics exchanged concerned glances. "We need to get him to the hospital. This could be anaphylaxis," one said firmly. Anaphylaxis, a severe, potentially fatal allergic reaction, was a word that sent a shiver through everyone present. As the paramedics worked swiftly, Liam's breathing grew more labored. Emily felt tears prick her eyes, the helplessness weighing on her like a stone. She pressed her hand against Liam's damp forehead, whispering soothing words she barely believed. "Hang on, Liam. You're going to be okay." The ambulance doors closed behind them, and the family was left standing in stunned silence. Emily's bite wound throbbed sharply, a painful reminder of the chaos that had erupted so suddenly. At the hospital's emergency room, doctors and nurses moved quickly, surrounding Liam with oxygen masks, 4 lines, and monitors. The swelling had spread alarmingly to his neck, threatening to close off his airway. Dr. Mitchell, the attending pediatrician, approached Emily and the Johnsons, his expression grave. "We're administering epinephrine and steroids to reduce the swelling. It's critical we act fast." Emily gripped the edge of the stretcher, her heart pounding as she watched the medical team work. The helplessness she'd felt in those moments was unlike anything she'd ever experienced. Meanwhile, back at the Johnson house, K9 sat alone in the corner, his eyes downcast and ears drooping. The family's earlier confusion about his sudden aggression was beginning to deepen into fear and uncertainty. Mrs. Johnson's voice broke the silence. "What could have made him bite Emily? He's always been so gentle." Mr. Johnson rubbed his temples. "Maybe the noise scared him. But what about Liam? Could the dog's saliva have caused the swelling?" Emily, still pale from shock and pain, shook her head. "I don't know, but it feels like everything's happening at once." As hours passed, Liam remained in the intensive care unit, monitored closely. The swelling began to recede slowly, thanks to the doctor's interventions. But the family's ordeal was far from over. Emily sat in a quiet corner, her bitten hand bandaged and throbbing. She replayed the evening's events over and over in her mind, struggling to make sense of K9's sudden attack and Liam's terrifying reaction. The question that haunted her most was simple but devastating. Could their beloved dog really be the cause of such danger? In that sterile hospital room, surrounded by machines and whispered prayers, the Johnson family confronted a frightening new reality, one where love, trust, and fear tangled tightly together. Emily's thoughts drifted back to Liam's swollen face and the desperate look in his eyes. She vowed silently that she would do whatever it took to protect him, even if it meant facing the unthinkable. Outside, the night deepened, but inside, A family's quiet evening had been shattered forever. The sterile hum of hospital machines filled the air as Liam lay on the hospital bed, his tiny body fragile beneath the crisp white sheets. Tubes snaked from his small arms, delivering fluids and medication, while a steady beep monitored his heartbeat. Emily sat beside him, her eyes red from tears and sleeplessness. Her injured hand rested gingerly in her lap, wrapped tightly in gauze, a constant reminder of the bite that had set everything into motion. Dr. Mitchell entered the room, clipboard in hand, his expression serious but reassuring. Liam is stable for now, but the swelling was severe. We caught it just in time to prevent airway blockage. Emily exhaled slowly, relief flooding her. Thank God, she whispered. The doctor nodded. We ran several tests to understand what triggered this reaction. At first, we suspected food allergies or insect stings, but then we found something unexpected. The room fell silent. Emily looked up, heart pounding. Dr. Mitchell continued. It appears Liam had an extreme allergic reaction to proteins found in dog saliva. Canine saliva, to be precise. The words hit like a punch. Emily's gaze darted to the closed hospital door, as if trying to find an answer hiding just beyond it. Is that possible? Mrs. Johnson asked, her voice trembling. He's always been around K9. It is rare, but documented, Dr. Mitchell said gently. Some children develop allergies that cause anaphylaxis from exposure to certain animal proteins, especially saliva. The bite likely introduced the allergen directly, causing the rapid swelling. Emily's mind spun. The dog she had trusted, who had protected Liam his entire life, had unintentionally become the source of a terrifying threat. Does this mean Liam can't be around K9 anymore? Emily's voice was barely above a whisper. It's complicated. Dr. Mitchell replied. We'll consult with allergy specialists and veterinarians. There might be ways to manage the allergy, but you have to understand, anaphylaxis is life-threatening. Tears welled in Emily's eyes as she looked down at Liam's peaceful face, still swollen but resting. The innocence of the toddler clashed with the severity of the situation. Hours later, the Johnsons gathered in the hospital's family room. The weight of the diagnosis pressed heavily on their shoulders. Mr. Johnson broke the silence. We have to figure out what to do with K9. He's been part of this family for 6 years. But Liam's safety comes first. Mrs. Johnson nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. I can't imagine life without our dog. But how can we risk Liam's health? Emily remained quiet, struggling with her own mix of guilt and fear. She replayed the moment of the bite over and over. Had she missed signs? Could she have stopped it? A nurse entered the room with a hospital pager. Dr. Stevens, the allergist, is available to speak with you now. The family quickly returned to Liam's room, where Dr. Stevens explained the road ahead. Liam's allergy is severe. We'll start immunotherapy treatments to try to build his tolerance gradually, but there are no guarantees. Meanwhile, strict avoidance of exposure to canine saliva is essential. Emily's throat tightened. What about the dog's behavior? Is K9 still a risk? Dr. Stevens paused. K9's bite may have been a reaction to being startled or protective, but from a medical standpoint, the saliva is the primary danger. For Liam right now, the family faced a painful reality. Their beloved dog was both protector and threat. Later that evening, Emily sat by Liam's bedside as he slept. Her fingers brushed his soft hair, her heart aching with a new kind of fear, a fear that love might not be enough to keep him safe. Outside the hospital window, the night sky stretched endless and dark, mirroring the uncertainty ahead. The battle to save Liam had only just begun, and the Johnson family was about to learn how fragile peace could be when trust was broken by the very source they had counted on most. After days in the hospital, Liam's condition stabilized, and the doctors allowed him to return home with strict medical instructions. The Johnson family felt a mixture of relief and dread as they drove back to their quiet suburban neighborhood. But the house that once felt like a safe haven now seemed heavy with unspoken fears and looming decisions. Emily carried Liam into the living room, where sunlight filtered through the curtains. The toddler smiled weakly, his cheeks still showing faint traces of swelling. A bite wound on Emily's hand had been treated and dressed, but the pain lingered, a dull, constant reminder of that terrifying evening. The family gathered around the kitchen table, the silence between them thick and uncomfortable. Mr. Johnson broke the silence. "We need to talk about K9. Mrs. Johnson's eyes filled with tears. "He's been with us longer than Liam has been alive. But we can't ignore the risks anymore." Emily nodded, her voice steady but sorrowful. "Liam's allergy is serious. We have to consider how to keep him safe." K9 lay nearby, his usually bright eyes dull and distant. The dog's presence, once a source of comfort, now sparked tension. Liam's doctor had warned about strict avoidance, and every interaction felt like walking a tightrope. The family decided to bring in a professional dog trainer to assess K9's behavior and help manage any triggers. The trainer, a calm and patient woman named Rachel, arrived the next day. She observed K9 closely, noting his reactions to sudden noises, unfamiliar touches, and the presence of Liam. K9's aggression likely stemmed from fear or overstimulation, Rachel explained. "We can work on desensitization and build trust, but it takes time and commitment." Emily listened intently, grateful for hope, but burdened by the reality of the challenge. Days turned into weeks as the family juggled Liam's allergy treatments, dog training sessions, and the emotional strain that came with constant vigilance. Emily found herself second-guessing every moment. Was Liam safe playing in the same room as K9? Could a lick or a sniff trigger another emergency? One afternoon, as Emily prepared Liam's snack, K9 suddenly barked sharply at a passing car. Liam turned toward the dog, curious. Emily's heart skipped a beat. She quickly intervened, moving Liam away. "Stay calm," Rachel advised gently. "Dogs can sense our anxiety, which can make things worse." Emily nodded, but couldn't shake the fear gnawing at her. The Johnsons also faced judgment and questions from neighbors and friends. Some whispered concerns about the dog's temperament. Others questioned why the family hadn't rehomed K9 immediately. Mrs. Johnson found herself defending their decision. "K9 is part of our family. We're doing everything we can to keep Liam safe and keep the dog with us." Emily often stayed late after babysitting, helping with research and organizing Liam's medications. One evening, she confided in Mr. Johnson, "I feel guilty. If I hadn't been bitten, maybe we would have known sooner. Maybe we could have prevented this." He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "None of this is your fault, Emily. You're doing everything you can." But the emotional toll was undeniable. Late at night, Emily would lie awake, listening for any sign of trouble. The house that once echoed with laughter now felt fragile, like it could shatter with the wrong move. Through the fear and frustration, small moments of hope emerged. Liam began responding to his treatments, and K9 showed signs of calming under Rachel's guidance. Yet the family knew the path ahead was uncertain. Balancing love and safety had become a daily challenge, a delicate dance, where one wrong step could change everything. As the sun set over Cedar Springs, the Johnson household braced for another night uncertain, uneasy, but determined to hold on to the fragile peace they still had. The weeks that followed felt like a blur of doctor's appointments, training sessions, and whispered conversations behind closed doors. The Johnson family was caught in a difficult balance between the love they had for K9 and the undeniable threat he now posed to little Liam's safety. Emily, who had become almost like a second mother to Liam, found herself walking on eggshells. Every moment with the toddler was overshadowed by the fear that K9's saliva could trigger another life-threatening reaction. The dog's loyal presence had transformed from comforting to cautionary, a constant reminder of the fragile line between safety and disaster. One evening, as the family sat down for dinner, the tension was palpable. K9 lay quietly on his bed nearby, but the atmosphere was heavy with unspoken questions. Mr. Johnson cleared his throat, breaking the silence. "We need to talk seriously about what comes next." Mrs. Johnson's eyes welled with tears. "I don't want to give him up, but Liam's health has to come first." Emily nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "I love K9, but I'm scared. What if something happens when we're not here?" The discussion was difficult, but necessary. The Johnsons knew they had to face the possibility of rehoming K9 for Liam's safety. A heartbreaking decision after 6 years of unconditional loyalty and love. Rachel, the dog trainer, offered her perspective during a follow-up session. "K9 has made progress, but there will always be risks. An allergic reaction can be triggered by even a lick, and that's unpredictable." Emily's voice trembled. "Is there any way to keep them both safe?" Rachel sighed. "Not without strict separation. It would mean no unsupervised time together and constant vigilance." The reality hit hard. The idea of separating Liam from his dog, who had been his protector and playmate, was devastating. That weekend, Emily took Liam to the park, watching him chase bubbles while K9 watched from a distance. Liam's laughter was contagious, but Emily's heart ached. She caught a glimpse of K9's wistful eyes, and guilt gnawed at her dot at home. Emily researched allergies and dog behavior, desperate for solutions. She reached out to specialists, joined support groups for families with pet allergies, and sought every possible way to keep Liam safe without losing K9. But every option had limits. The Johnsons began installing baby gates, creating dog-free zones, and adopting strict hygiene protocols to minimize exposure. Yet each precaution was a reminder of the distance growing between the family's once seamless bond. One evening, while Emily was tucking Liam into bed, the toddler looked up with innocent eyes. "Why can't I play with K9 like before?" Emily's throat tightened. "Because we have to keep you safe, sweetie. But K9 loves you very much." Liam's small hand reached out, touching Emily's cheek. "I love K9 too." That simple exchange was a bittersweet reminder of what was at stake. Meanwhile, Emily's hand was healing, but the emotional scars ran deep. She struggled with the trauma of the bite and the overwhelming responsibility she felt for Liam's safety. Every time K9 approached, a flicker of fear crept in. Battling with the affection she had for the dog, the Johnsons convened a family meeting to discuss the next steps. After long, tearful talks, they made the heartbreaking decision to seek a temporary foster home for K9 while they explored allergy treatments and possible immunotherapy for Liam. The choice was painful, but necessary. As K9 was gently led into a waiting car by Rachel, Liam reached out through the window, tears streaming down his face. Emily held him close, whispering soothing words, but the ache was undeniable. That night, the house felt emptier, the silence louder. Emily sat by Liam's bedside, holding his small hand. "We'll get through this," she promised, though inside she was filled with uncertainty. The bond between child and dog had been broken, but hope flickered faintly in the darkness. The Johnson family had survived the worst, but now faced a new challenge, learning how to live with loss, love, and the fragile hope of healing. The house felt different without K9. The familiar sound of paws padding softly across the floor was gone, replaced by a heavy silence that seemed to echo in every room. Liam wandered through the spaces, his little hands reaching out for the dog's empty bed, his face a mix of confusion and sadness. Emily watched him quietly, her heart aching for the boy she cared for deeply. The Johnson family had made the difficult choice to place K9 in a temporary foster home recommended by Rachel, the dog trainer. It was a step no one wanted to take, but one they felt was necessary to protect Liam while exploring medical options. In the days that followed, the family focused on Liam's allergy treatments. Immunotherapy sessions began with cautious hope. The allergist explained that this process could, over time, reduce Liam's sensitivity to the proteins in dog saliva, but it was slow and uncertain. Emily accompanied Liam to each appointment, watching as the tiny toddler bravely endured tests and injections with a strength that surprised even the doctors. She held his hand tightly, whispering encouragements during moments of discomfort. Meanwhile, the foster family sent regular updates on K9. Photos showed the dog resting peacefully, enjoying gentle walks and slowly adjusting to his new surroundings. Though relieved he was safe and cared for, Emily and the Johnsons missed him terribly. One afternoon, Rachel returned for another training session with K9 and the family. Her goal was to assess K9's progress and help prepare for a possible reunion. Should Liam's treatment succeed, K9 has responded well to the training, Rachel reported. He's calmer and more responsive. But the real question is Liam's allergy. If that improves, we can start thinking about bringing K9 home. Emily nodded, hope and anxiety warring inside her. The family began establishing strict boundaries to minimize exposure. Dog-free zones, regular cleaning, and constant hand-washing. Liam learned to avoid direct contact with K9's mouth or saliva, but the fear lingered beneath every interaction. One quiet evening, Emily sat with Liam in the living room, showing him pictures of K9 on her phone. The toddler's eyes lit up with recognition and joy. Double quotes, "See, Liam? That's K9. He loves you very much." Liam giggled softly, reaching for the screen. "K9 soon?" Emily smiled, brushing a stray curl from his forehead. "Soon, sweetheart? We're working hard to make it safe." But the emotional strain on the family was undeniable. The fear of another allergic reaction shadowed every day. Emily found herself watching Liam closely, hyper-aware of any signs of swelling or distress. Her own anxiety sometimes overwhelmed her, making even simple moments tense. One afternoon, as Emily prepared Liam's lunch, she glanced at the front door. For a brief moment, she imagined K9 walking back in, tail wagging, the house whole again. But reality pulled her back. Instead, she focused on the here and now care, patience, and the slow, uncertain road to healing. Mrs. Johnson confided in Emily one evening, her voice soft but hopeful. "We're learning to live differently now. It's not what we expected, but we're together. That's what matters." Emily nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "I believe things will get better. Liam's so strong." Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light through the windows. The Johnson home, though marked by recent trials, still held warmth and love. The journey ahead was far from over, but with each small step forward, the family found new reasons to hope. And somewhere, in a quiet foster home, K9 dreamed of the day he would return to the family who loved him, when safety and healing finally allowed them to be together again. Weeks turned into months as Liam's immunotherapy treatments continued, and the Johnson family adjusted to their new reality. The separation from K9 remained painful, but hope grew with each small improvement in Liam's allergy tests. The boys' swelling episodes became less frequent and less severe, a sign that the treatment might be working. Despite the progress, the emotional strain weighed heavily. Emily often felt torn. Her heart ached for K9, and yet her fierce protective instincts for Liam never wavered. The family's once seamless daily life was now a patchwork of medical appointments, careful planning, and quiet moments of fear and hope. One afternoon, As Emily picked up Liam from daycare, she noticed a flyer on the community bulletin board. It was a fundraising event organized to help the Johnsons with mounting medical bills and to support their effort to keep the family intact. The news spread quickly through Cedar Springs. Neighbors, friends, and even local businesses rallied around the family. Volunteers organized bake sales, yard cleanups, and a charity walk to raise funds and show their support. At the fundraiser, Emily stood beside Mrs. Johnson, grateful tears streaming down her face as neighbors shared stories of their own struggles and triumphs with pets and children. A sense of community reminded them that they were not alone in their fight. Rachel, the dog trainer, gave a heartfelt speech about the power of love and patience in overcoming challenges, whether with pets or people. Her words resonated deeply with everyone present. Meanwhile, updates from K9's foster family brought a bittersweet mix of comfort and longing. Photos showed the dog enjoying gentle hikes and naps in the sunshine, his once anxious eyes now calmer. Yet Emily missed the reassuring weight of his presence and the sound of his loyal footsteps. Back at home, the family worked hard to maintain safety. Baby gates remained up, cleaning routines intensified, and Liam learned to be cautious around dogs, even outside the home. The effort was exhausting, but necessary. One evening, as Emily was putting Liam to bed, he tugged at her sleeve. "Emily, can K9 come home now?" Her heart broke, but she smiled softly. "Soon, Liam. We're getting closer every day." Yet not all moments were hopeful. One afternoon, during a routine checkup, the allergist delivered unsettling news. Liam's allergy levels had plateaued. Progress had slowed, and the risk of a severe reaction remained significant. The family faced a sobering reality. They might never fully eliminate the danger. A possibility of permanent separation from K9 loomed. Once again, Emily sat quietly, the weight of uncertainty pressing down. Mr. Johnson broke the silence at dinner. "We have to prepare for every outcome." Mrs. Johnson nodded, tears brimming. "But we'll never stop hoping." Emily reached out to squeeze their hands, feeling the shared strength that had carried them this far. The journey was far from over, but the family had already faced darkness and emerged stronger, bound by love and resilience. As the fundraiser ended and the community's support echoed in their hearts, the Johnsons knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together. And somewhere, miles away in his foster home, K9 rested, waiting patiently for the day he could return to the family who never stopped loving him. The seasons changed in Cedar Springs, marking the passing of months since the night that had altered the Johnson family's life forever. Autumn's crisp air brought a quiet calm to the neighborhood. But inside the Johnson home, the journey toward healing was still unfolding. Liam had made remarkable progress. His immunotherapy treatments continued, and while the risk of allergic reaction remained, the frequency and severity had decreased. Doctors cautiously optimistic, the family clung to every sign of improvement. One bright morning, Emily stood by the window, watching Liam play in the backyard under the watchful eyes of his parents. A figure emerged from the gate. K9, returning home. The reunion was tender and emotional. Liam's eyes lit up as the dog bounded toward him, tail wagging wildly. Emily and the Johnsons watched, hearts swelling as the two old friends embraced. Liam reached out his small arms, hugging K9's neck with pure joy. Rachel, the trainer, had worked closely with the family to ensure the home was safe for Liam's return. Strict boundaries remained in place, and everyone was vigilant. But the household felt whole again. The months apart had been difficult, but the family had grown stronger. They had faced fear, pain, and uncertainty, and come through with a deeper understanding of love and resilience. Emily reflected on her journey, the bite that had shaken her, the nights of worry, and the overwhelming responsibility she had felt. But more than that, she remembered the moments of hope, community support, and the unbreakable bonds forged in hardship. Mr. Johnson smiled as he watched Liam and K9 play fetch in the yard. "We've come a long way," he said. Mrs. Johnson nodded, tears glistening. "And we'll keep moving forward." Emily joined them, the warmth of the family filling her with gratitude. Liam's allergy would always require care, but the fear that had once consumed him had softened into cautious hope. The bond between child and dog, once threatened, had been carefully restored. In the quiet moments, Emily knew the story wasn't just about an allergic reaction or a dog bite. It was about trust, forgiveness, and the power of love to heal wounds seen and unseen. As the sun set over Cedar Springs, the Johnson family sat together on the porch, K9 resting at their feet. The past's shadows remained, but they no longer defined them. They faced the future united, stronger and filled with hope, a testament to the resilience of family and the healing power of love.